everybody, and welcome along to a brand new video where we're finally continuing the Series 11 Doctor Who rewatch, where we're just literally 2 weeks or so away from the start of Series 12, so I'm going to try and quickly in the next couple of weeks bosh off these last 4 episodes of Series 11 plus the special resolution. Today, of course, we'll be looking at KaBlam and the Witchfinders. So yes, these are episodes 7 and 8 of the series, having delved through the first 6, check them out if you haven't already in my first 3 videos of this series. And so far it feels like Series 11 has been sort of solid, if unspectacular, up until this point. I think it's fair to say there are some good episodes in there. Chris Chibnall doesn't write the best episodes, but the ones not written by him are pretty good in the most part. So we come to KaBlam, episode 7, which is written by Pete McTighe, who has, well, I don't know how to pronounce his surname to be honest, but he's never been a writer for the programme before, so it was a great sort of clean slate for him. And I certainly remember at the time, and think it watching again, is that this very much feels like a classic proper Doctor Who story. It's almost the first time in the series, I think, where they've been doing lots of different types of things with stories, more historical stories, just some not very good ones by Chris, unfortunately. But then we get to KaBlam, which is a proper classic, interesting idea. A sort of surprise villain, I guess, to a degree, in terms of the kind of twist at the end that it's actually the kind of janitor guy who turns out to be the one behind it all. Some people say it gets a little bit political. I don't massively agree. Well, it does a little bit, but I don't think there's any problem for this story. I think it's just a genuinely interesting story. The KaBlam men look really, really cool. It's just a great idea, I think, that we have. It's amazing we haven't explored before, a sort of Amazon for the world, for the universe, and for the whole universe. It's just not such an obvious idea of something that could be really interestingly used within Doctor Who. So it's amazing it hadn't been done up until this point, and I feel like it's done really, really effectively in this story. I think it's really fun seeing the Doctor and the companions all get sort of stuck in and have to kind of sort of work for this company to try and understand what's going on. It's a classic, we'll kind of try and infiltrate this company by sort of sneaking in, saying that we're part of them, going to become part of them, and then sort of try and find out what's going on from the inside. I thought that's quite classic Doctor Who, and quite fun and quite interesting, and just a good way into it, and to be able to explore this company, what it's all about, how it works. And I love through a lot of this story, it seems like it's the KaBlam men that are behind it, the system's behind it that's trying to cause all these problems, but actually the system's the one crying for help, and it's actually this guy who's controlling the system and trying to sort of turn it against the people to try and destroy the KaBlam men, or just use the KaBlam men to obviously blow up with a bubble wrap, kill lots of people, and take out them all so that they can't be used. And so the humans get their jobs back, and there's that little bit of political side of it, which I don't really mind. I think it still creates a really interesting story, and does sort of give a bit of a message for the future as well, to be fair, I think, which is relevant, not necessarily particularly now. I don't think we're at that point anywhere near that yet, but that point in the future where there could be a sort of more and more developed robots that could kind of take a lot of the jobs that we as humans are able to do at the moment, and sort of just being fearful and sort of acknowledging that fact and needing to still create jobs for humans. So yeah, there's some interesting ideas in there, I think, explored, and even though, yeah, it gets a little political, I still don't think it's too much. I do really enjoy the kind of twist at the end that it is the janitor guy who's been behind all this. I can't remember his name, I'm sorry guys. But I don't know, it just feels, at least watching it first time, I remember it just felt genuinely unexpected when suddenly it all reversed around. It was nothing to do with the robots that were behind anything. It was actually the janitor dude who was the guy in control all along. I just thought that was a really cool, fun twist that meant you were genuinely shocked and surprised by the end of this story. I think that's always really, really good to see. So yeah, I thought that really, really helped it, given that you thought it was maybe this weird sort of managery type guy who looked rather shady halfway through. You thought, oh, could it be him? Maybe that's a bit obvious. And then is it just all the robots that are doing it? But actually, no, it's the janitor who's controlled everything. So yeah, overall, this story just feels like a very sort of classic Doctor Who-y story. I think it's the most Doctor Who the whole of Series 11 feels, really. This and It Takes You Away, I think, are the two probably stories that you really could kind of put into any other series, and it would feel kind of like it fits perfectly because it's so Doctor Who-y. So I think that very much helps this story. It's just very interesting and exciting. Well, not necessarily exciting, but very interesting in idea and concept, and sort of a well-constructed story all round, where it doesn't sort of fall apart halfway through or anything like that. A little bit political, but it's not a problem. And so overall, KaBlam is one of the better stories of Series 11, I think. And so on to the other story we're looking at today, The Witchfinders, which is episode 8 of Series 11, getting very much towards the end of it now, the final historical story of the series, where up to this point, arguably the two historicals of Rose and Redeemers of the Punjab were the strongest episodes of the series, or certainly right up there. Could the Witchfinders really kind of continue that trend? And I don't think I would say it's continued the trend, because it's not a brilliant story. I certainly don't think it's a terrible story. It's very much quite entertaining. It's got a decent enough villain in it, or at least a proper actually alien type villain that we can see and looks visually really, really cool, the Morax. when Becca turns into this Morak sort of queen. That looks really, really cool, and I really like that. But as an overall story, yeah, it's got some good ideas in there. It's quite fun that it sort of feels, you kind of know throughout this story there's some sort of alien menace behind things, but it's kind of, there's barely anything to go on until suddenly Becca turns into the Moraks, and then we suddenly realise, wow, this is the alien race that we've got going on, not just these sort of zombified people that we seem to be seeing earlier in the story, or the tendrils that are appearing from the ground. Suddenly twist that around with 20 minutes to go, I think is really, really fun. And so it just works really effectively in combining a sort of historical with classic Doctor Who sci-fi alien aspects. In a really, really clever way, I think, and it does do a good job, maybe a little bit of an over-the-top job of focusing on the period of the time, of that whole idea of the people being accused of witches and having to kill them to get rid of Satan. I have to say, the amount of times that they say Satan in this episode is a bit ridiculous. Like, they seem the first half an hour, it feels like every other sentence is Satan, said in King James's quite funny accent. I mean, I do find King James quite funny, to be honest. Like, he's clearly is meant to be played a fair bit for laughs, and for me it works. I do find it genuinely quite insane. I think it's played by Alan Cumming, and I feel like he does a really, really good job. It's meant to be a comedy portrayal to an extent, and I think he does a great job of it, and I really I felt like I added to the episode just to make it a little bit lighter in places when we're focusing on witches, witch trials, dunkings, death, Satan, evil, all this sort of quite dark stuff. To have a slightly comedic King James, I think, just kind of balanced it out a little bit better, rather than just making it all very dark and miserable and depressing, which it could have been. I do like, again, the kind of twist that they use of it turning out that Becca's the one who's been infected originally by the Moraks, and that's basically motivating everything that she's doing, in terms of killing all these supposed witches who clearly aren't witches. I like that we kind of gradually kind of find out more about that and about her and what's going on, what her motivations are, and then we discover that obviously she's infected by the alien, it's turning into the alien, and it's all really going quite badly wrong for her. I think that's really quite effectively done in this story. I think maybe the ending feels a little bit rushed. It feels like the aliens and the Moraks are defeated quite easily. Sort of, they only kind of appear, well, in proper form for the first time about, 35 minutes into a 48 minute episode. And then it's all pretty quickly wrapped up on top of the hill. They put their green flame, I can't remember what was in it, but the green flame that sort of kills them or hurts them apparently, and then boom, they got in no time at all. Yeah, that maybe was a little bit of a shame how rushed that was. I feel like as much as it was good to build up the suspense to what this alien creature actually was, it might have worked better to have introduced them 10-15 minutes earlier and had them be able to do a little bit more, rather than just say, we're the Moraks, we've been trapped here for war crimes, we're going to kill you all, and then get defeated, and easy peasy, they're all done, let's go home. So yeah, I think that was a little bit of a shame that it felt so rushed, but I don't think it massively kind of ruined the story. It just is where maybe an extra 10 minutes of runtime, for example, could have helped the story a lot. But overall, again, The Witchfinders is a pretty solid episode. I don't feel like it's as good as the last couple, Teams of the Punjab or KaBlam, and probably not as good as It Takes You Away. When I watch that again, we'll find out, but I'm not convinced it's as good as that. But it's still a pretty solid story. Written by Joy Wilkinson, again, her first story for Doctor Who as well. And I think she did a pretty good job of it. As I say, not as good as the other historicals, but it continues the reasonably solid trends, I think, particularly to the second half of Series 11. And so that just about wraps up that brief little look at a couple episodes 7 and 8 of Series 11, KaBlam and the Witchfinders. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on these two episodes down in the comments below, so do let me know what you think of them, whether you enjoyed them at the time, whether you enjoy them more now, have you even watched them again since Series 11 aired. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them down in the comments below. But apart from that, that's all for this video, guys. I've got lots more coming up in the next few weeks. Apologies that it's been a bit sparse recently. I've been ill and it's just been a bit busy with work and stuff, but hopefully, well, I've certainly got lots of plans, shall we say, for over the Christmas time, which will be revealed very, very soon. So do make sure you look out for those, because yeah, there's going to be lots of exciting videos to come up in the run-up to Series 12 and throughout Series 12, of course. But apart from that, remember that like button, that subscribe button if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye!